Welcome to What Happens Next, the channel dedicated to thinking about transitions in our life, particularly when we're in our 50s and 60s, and how we can redefine the next chapter in a way that's exciting, compelling, fun, but also brings purpose and meaning. And today I want to talk about purpose and meaning because so many of my clients think about their lives in a sort of transition. And I've had a conversation with a client and friend of mine the other day who said to me something really interesting, that his life in his previous career was all about build, and now it's all about give. And interestingly, I know a man who knows a lot about giving, and that is our guest today, Toby. How you doing, mate?
Very well, thank you. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Now, last time we saw each other, I found myself, we were in Stratford in East London. I found myself cycling through the Olympic Park on the way to our lunch and bumping into a bit of a childhood legend of mine, Timmy Mallett, which is a weird experience to have. And I was really desperate to just, I don't know, say hello, get a photo, but they waved me on. And apparently there's an advert out there now that he was filming at the time that's out there that I haven't seen yet. So I need to definitely look at that. But the question I want to start with, Toby, is if you could meet somebody who informed your childhood, who would it be? Who would you love to meet from the childhood years?
Goodness, that's thrown me. Starting to think about my childhood years. It was mainly Optimus Prime and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So
yeah.
You know, maybe there is something in there with Optimus Prime and leadership. I'm sure I could probably write a LinkedIn post about this somehow.
You know what? The Transformers are pretty enduring. I mean, they were around when I was a kid. They've been around for donkey's years, haven't they?
You know, what a strong brand recognition they've got. I'm sure I could.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I wasn't expecting you to pick a cartoon. I mean, I don't know how we gonna wangle the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Although weirdly, I was saying before we started, I'm sorting out all of our family's Christmas presents at the minute. And Russ said to me, and what we try and do, because we don't need any more stuff in our lives, and I'm sure if you're watching, you can resonate with that as well. We try to buy stuff that's more experiential, and I'm trying to wangle it so that Russ, my brother, and I go and see the Paddington musical that looks absolutely amazing without it being two middle-aged blokes trying to watch a Paddington musical surrounded by a bunch of kids. I don't know. I'll try and work that out. I know a lot about you, mate, and I've been lucky enough to spend a lot of time with you. But for the benefits of our audience, tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, yeah. I wear a few heads nowadays, but as I break it down, I'll do it in no particular order. So I also host a podcast called the Thrive Against Cancer podcast, which I'm very lucky to sit at the center of, where I get to interview cancer survivors and those affected in the cancer community, just telling really honest and raw and open conversations about their experiences. I am a race director for the Colchester Half Marathon, which is owned by the Robbing Cancer Trust, which is the charity that I am founder and CEO of. And I set up that charity along with my family after we lost my brother Rob to a rare form of testicular cancer when he was just 24. And I'm the youngest of three. So I was 22 when this happened, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but that has shaped a lot of my life ever since. So the Robbing Cancer Trust delivers education, awareness and support to anyone affected by testicular, ovarian or germ cell cancers anywhere in the UK. We're a small team with a big old vision of making sure everyone, no matter where they are, gets the same experience through our services. And we just want to work with anyone in the community, anyone in the charity sector to make sure that person that's been affected or their family members get the support they need. So
Love
alongside that, I should probably mention, because it's sort of sitting here in the bottom hand corner of my my office here, I also run around like a giant ball bag, which is part of my male health and cancer advocacy work, really trying to break down the
Not
stigma.
just because you enjoy it.
No, surprisingly not. I'm amazed they're in my house. My wife doesn't usually. They're too big. They get chucked down here, so this is a rarity for them to be in touching distance. But I do that to break the stigma, reduce embarrassment, and start really important health conversations with men, just to do the silliest thing I could possibly do, which so far has taken me about 450 kilometers all across the UK, running in this silly costume.
Love that. Tell me about, because what I love about hosting a podcast is you get really interesting insights when you don't expect it. What's the conversation you've had on your podcast that really impacted you personally the most?
Oh, there's been so many. What I love about the podcast is we have every single type of cancer, different diagnoses. We have people that are incurable. We've had guests that have had terminal diagnoses, and it's the perspective, it's the themes and the topics that you pick up and you go, someone said that 3 months ago, but it was about a completely different bit of cancer in a completely different time of their life. And it's just being able to see the umbrella of it all and go, actually, it doesn't matter. The cancer diagnosis is irrelevant in a way to, they're all so important. It doesn't matter what type of cancer you've got, what your prognosis is, what your diagnosis is. The individual feels exactly the same way every time. The world closes up. They don't know how to deal with it. The friends and family don't tend to know how to support them. They feel completely isolated. There's not enough support. Once they're out of treatment, if that happens, then they feel completely left just as you've been dealt with back out into the world, regardless of age. And then over time, them discovering how they want to give back as well has been, it's just this beautiful thing to sit there and listen to people go, actually, I decided I want to do this. I want to tell my story. If it helped just one more person, and that really resonates with me. And then just this perspective that these quite young people have had quite a lot of the time. You go through a teenage cancer diagnosis and you're going into your early teens with this perspective of your own mortality. And you just think, how do you live your life like that? And that resonates with me because I've seen the worst of it. So I think it's just this gratitude for every moment. Not that everything has to be happy, Life isn't happy. Life is tough. Scans happen, aches, illnesses, grief happens, love and joy also happens. And it's focusing on those bits and just being able to hear someone's horrendous story that they've been through and then go, what's the greatest lesson you've learned from having cancer? And they're like, life is brilliant. Life is beautiful. Appreciate all of it. Appreciate what you can do. And you just think they can sound quite flippant if you haven't heard the whole experience.
I don't think it sounds flippant at all. And I think I've never had that sort of I've never ever been that ill personally, but my mum died of cancer and we've just recently lost a family friend of cancer as well. And you turn around and go, actually the perspective on life changes when you start to lose people. And if you're in that particular situation, grateful for every day doesn't sound flippant, it sounds important. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it can sound flippant if you haven't heard the experience. Just saying, "Oh, life is beautiful." Do you know what I mean? It's an easy thing to say, and actually, that has been born out of, seeing that life could very easily be taken away, and that perspective that people are so great. They don't want anyone to go through it. They don't want themselves to have gone through it, but they understand that the importance of what they've gone through, seeing the positive and understanding that there is still joy out there, there is still purpose to be found, there is still good to do in the world is inspiring every single time. It's amazing.
What's interesting is that motivation, desire to do good. I as you know, I used to host a podcast about kindness, and I remember I remember interviewing somebody who I read about in my local paper, and I opened up, and there's just this. There was a sort of woman in her mid-30s dressed as a massive elf, and the story was that she visited every children's hospice with a present for every kid and fundraised and just travelled around the UK dressed as a giant elf. And I mean, she made me laugh because she went, I always stayed at the Premier Inn because I always got a good night's sleep, but I always used to forget when I walked into reception that I was dressed as a giant elf in November, and it was a bit weird. But her moment of deciding to take this journey was when she had a cancer diagnosis. And she decided that part of her future story, once she'd recovered, is she was going to do a bit of good in the world. What do you think changes in our perspective when we go through that journey that means that we want to think about doing good, Mark?
I suppose you get to the question, is wanting to do good intrinsic in us anyway? I think it is. You know, your podcast, right? You would say your main audience is people that have built and now they want to give back. And actually, when you go through an experience where your immortality or someone else's mortality is flashed right in front of you, you realize that maybe you just don't have time to do the building. Sometimes you just have to do the good bit. You have to work it out. And I think that's all it is. You know, I always say experience breeds empathy, right? I talk to people that have been through life experiences that people, if you live long enough, will generally be affected by. And cancer's 1 in 2. If guys live long enough, you're probably, just because it would be so slow growing, going to die with prostate cancer. Do you know, if you were like 95, 97, 98, you're going to have some sort of cancer if you live long enough in that regard. Well, you're just shortening that experience and going, actually, maybe I don't have the time to build. I'm just going to do good and give back.
Well, where's the balance, right? And if the balance is skewed towards doing no good or not looking after yourself physically or doing all of the other elements that might be important for our future, but just focusing on build, that might not be the right balance. And it's up to people to make a judgment call on that. So tell me a little bit about running then, because I know you said that you're a race director for the Culture at the Heart. You've done a fair bit yourself, right?
I have, yeah. This sort of came about, classic lockdown story. My wife accidentally shaved my head, and then I got into running, so I had the whole shebang. You know, I was out there in it, and yeah, just one of those things. We had limited time, right? You wanted to get out as much as you could. I started running. I don't think I was particularly healthy at that time. We'd had my daughter, and my health had not been a priority, and then the world stopped. And my wife was pregnant. We had a lockdown baby. He was born in the July when we were in lockdown. And I just realized that health had to come first. Working so hard to keep the charity alive, and running was a bit of an outlet. And then the more I ran, the more I realized I needed to run to keep my mental health in check. And it's just become my outlet. I think everyone has a different one. Sometimes it's live music, going and dancing, seeing friends, socializing. Mine is very much after a day of static, sat at a computer, strategizing and trying to change the world on a computer screen. I need to get up and move my body. So it's been an amazing thing for me personally. And then this year with the mascot, the giant ball bag, I just said to my wife, I was like, can I combine my 2 greatest non-you non-family loves, running? She was like, go ahead. So I've been
You didn't take the ball back to Tenerife though, did you? I mean, you left it at home. You had a break.
I did have a run. I definitely took my running gear to Tenerife, which is very hilly. But no, I can't quite get them in a baggage.
No, they're not really carry-on luggage, are they? I don't think you get away with that one. But this is that's the other interesting thing, because I'd imagine you're having a lot of conversations with people about that combination between physical health, mental health, and looking after ourselves properly. And I don't think blokes are particularly good at that naturally. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think there's a few things. I think we're terrible at communicating as a gender. We're not very good, and I have a few theories on that. I think my theory: we work with ovarian and testicular cancer, so we see both sides of the campaigns, and they're completely different. When we talk about ovarian, very much empowerment. With the guys at every age, it's just about embarrassment and stigma. And I think at that age of puberty, where our bodies are changing, women tend to have more peer-to-peer support. There's more open and honest conversations, and that leads to there's not much stigma. Just we're not listened to on a medical side, so we're trying to break that down. With guys, it's just all
talk about.
It's all banter in a negative way. It's all about whose voice is breaking, whose balls dropped, whose pubes are growing, who's got facial hair, who hasn't. It's all just, and that just we regress within ourselves, and we don't know how to talk about it. And I think outlets are really important. We are not very good at talking face to face. We talk in parallels.
Yeah.
Give us a lawnmower to fix, even if we don't know how, we give it a go. Give us a pint to drink, or give us a run to do. We're not actually looking each other in the eye. We're focusing on another task, and I think that's really important.
Yeah. So this is one of the interesting things. Like one of the things that we talk about quite a lot on What Happens Next is that element of how do we in a particular transition in our lives make sure that we're maintaining those social connections. And it takes work, it's that element. And I think I've said to you in the past, I've had to, in my late 40s now, I've had to have a real intense focus and think about what I do to maintain social connection, because when I was in my early 30s, I wasn't that good because I was too focused on the balance of work compared to everything else. And my experience with clients is sometimes they get to their late 50s and it's very much, oh shit, I've done 20 years of this building stuff and I don't really know my friends anymore. So what do I need to do that in? And then I look at Patsy, who's brilliant at this sort of stuff, and she just makes more effort. She just tries more. It's not actually rocket science. No. So I've had to just get better at focusing and prioritizing my time and make more effort. Now, one of the things that I tend to have a lot of conversations with clients about is when we've got young kids and we're in build mode, for want of a better phrase, and we're building careers, charities, businesses. Purpose is often intrinsic in terms of we're doing it for the kids, we're doing it for the family, we're doing it for a cause we believe in, and we're doing it to get to a goal. And that might be financial independence, that might be selling a business, that might be freedom when the kids grow up. But often there's an element where you turn around and go, where's purpose come from in the next chapter of our lives? Now, your work is very purposeful. So I'd be interested in your insight in terms of how you look at purpose, and how, if somebody was thinking about their lives and going, I need to make it more purposeful, how we do that.
I think there's a pressure that purpose is like a light bulb moment, that you get struck with purpose. I think people feel this, I don't have purpose, but one day, if I work hard enough, something's going to come down and I'm going to go, whoa, my purpose is clear. And that's just, it's not. I think purpose is more like little breadcrumbs in a forest. 100%. And you follow a little path that feels right. And you have to do a bit of work inwards before you can go outwards. I think you have to look at, it's that self-awareness piece of, who am I right now? Who do I want to be? And what are my values that will get me there? Stay true to those. So I think that asking yourself the hard questions, what brings me joy and what also absolutely drains me.
Yeah,
I think we often live a life, perhaps it's easy to not be that intentional with our lives. Things just carry on and we get into a job and it provides us quite a lot, but it doesn't provide us that little sliver of what people think is purpose, but is actually just a bit of joy that you go, actually, I really enjoy doing that, but actually I don't enjoy my job and I don't like this. So those little breadcrumbs, following them eventually, you discover your purpose, and your purpose changes as well all the time. I looked at my purpose when I think my purpose at the beginning years was just getting through grief. If I did good, I felt better and I didn't feel really depressed and sad. And then it was, actually, I can see the impact of this and I want to help that reach more people. And then it was all about the marketing and the campaigns. And actually now my purpose is more about growing the charity to a place where I can leave it. And that, you know, the purpose changes as long as you stay true to yourself. And I think that bit where you feel like you don't have purpose is maybe with what your actions are doing aren't aligning with who you really know who you are or want to be. And
I think that's really a really interesting point. And I'm 100% with you on that. I mean, when we talk about purpose and what happens next, we use a philosophy that applies to all aspects of our lives. And it's from a great book that I love by a guy called Bill Burnett called Design Your Life. And it's all about applying design thinking to every aspect of our life. And he talks about incremental low-cost experimentation. So if you're feeling that you're not aligned to your purpose, what's the just next breadcrumb, for want of a better phrase, you can try to get closer? And that might be volunteering for a charity and seeing how it goes. That might be trying something you've never experienced. And as long as you appreciate the fact that you might do that and go, not for me, that's a step forward as well.
Yeah.
And that element of what's my purpose and it's going to come immediately, I think it evolves over time, right? What do you think?
I completely agree. I think part of the problem with most of the world is social media, right? There's just people telling you out there that you can find it immediately. You put one prompt in ChatGPT and you go, oh, I found my driving purpose for life. And there's just this pressure to always be, you know, you see the end goal constantly. You never see the bit that takes years to get there. But I totally agree with that. I think charities are, was it incremental experimentation?
Incremental low-cost experimentation.
Low cost. Love that, because that's one of my big selling points of the charity sector is actually it's so low risk and so high reward. There's so many things you can dip your toe in. If you don't know what emotionally tugs at you, what changes you want to see in the world, what problems, just try. Yeah, because you volunteer, Chris, and you go, okay, that wasn't for me. Well, you volunteered some time, you've done some good, and the charity only needs to thank you. You can move on to the next cause. You can go homelessness,
or if it really float your boat, Toby, do more.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that element of like just trying stuff is and it's really interesting because that incremental low-cost experimentation, I think, applies to all aspects of our lives. You know, if we want to improve, you know, I've done a bit of running. I don't think I'm a natural runner and I'm not doing that much now, but just try running if you want to improve your fitness and decide whether it's for you or not. And just that element of, for want of a better phrase, play. Do you know what I mean? I think if we can go back to that child philosophy of going, how do we play with this? And, you know, hold it lightly, give it a go. If it works for us in our plan for the next chapter of our lives, great. But if not, fine. And we evolve through there. No, I absolutely love that. So I suppose the big question then, in terms of that element of incorporating doing good in our lives, if people have been living on this track, they've been doing their life in a business as usual way, what's those first steps they should consider to support the cause they believe in? How do they get involved?
Well, again, exactly what we've just been talking about. I think starting small, it doesn't have to be on. I think, again, there's a pressure, especially if people have built in a big way and have maybe hit their peaks in their professional life. They're like, I've got to be an NED. I've got to be a trustee. You're like, actually, you don't know if that's right for you. It's a big thing. It's a lot of commitment. Just dip your toes in. I think. I think the biggest thing to be cautious of with charities is time and time and capacity are the biggest stretches. It is so lovely when someone comes in and goes, I've got this experience, let me give it to you. Sometimes you don't have the infrastructure as a small charity to actually know how to help. So I would say either identify problems that you want to fix. You know, if you've lived your life intentionally, you can probably look at a problem, even a cause at a local level, and go, that's not working very well, I could do that better. Go and offer a solution. That's brilliant. Or have an honest conversation and just go, what are your problems? Might have some requisite skills that I could donate.
Yeah.
But it could be as simple as just going, right, well, let's grab a coffee with a staff member. Just get to know them, get to know the values, the ethos. A big thing is trust, right? You want to know that you can trust a cause if you're giving to that cause. Where does the money go? How many people do you help? There are questions every charity should be able to answer. And like just getting a feel for the culture. So going to an event, volunteering, like you can just be a bucket shaker for an afternoon.
Yeah.
If you are thanked thoroughly and you can see the impact and you can feel that energy from people that you're interacting with, then maybe that's a cause that resonates with you. Again, if not, you've done some good for an afternoon. You can just go, well, that wasn't the one for me. I'll try a different cause later on.
So, you know what, I'm sharing an experience that I'm going through at the minute. I'm doing some fundraising, and Katsy and I are doing some support for a local homeless charity. And we went to see the charity. We looked at the really good work they were doing, and was conscious that the people who were coming in and using the service, at certain points in our lives, we've been really fortunate to have built something, but at certain points in our lives, with a different route, that could have been us. These people didn't look any different to Katsy and I, and we said, look, we're going to support this charity. So I'm doing a sleep out challenge, and we've raised a bit of money by doing that, which has been really good. But we did Katsy said to me, do you want to come and shake a bucket at Southend football club, because they've got a match? And what was interesting is we didn't actually raise that much money. But what I learned is the biggest gap that charity had is they had no functionality to pay by card to donate to the charity. So what we've done as a business, and we're in the process of organising now, is get 10 card machines for that charity and the infrastructure to go with it so that they can fundraise properly. And brilliant. I wouldn't have known that unless I was out shaking a bucket. So it's that evolution of thought that's really interesting, isn't it? It's where you take it from there. Toby, you mentioned something earlier on that I'm just really curious to understand a bit more about: grief. Tell me a bit about what you've learned about grief through losing your brother, through the conversations you've had with the charity, and how grief changes your life.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing with grief is it's just entirely personal. There's the 5 stages of grief is the sort of old adage that a lot of people are aware of, and some of that might be true for some people, but I think I've watched multiple people be affected by grief in multiple ways, and it's just so unique. I think there's a stigma around comparison that is completely unfair, because someone's dog might have been their lifeline during the hardest time of their lives. Their grandma might have been the most important person to them growing up. Their colleague might have been their personal mentor. Do you know what I mean? I think people compare griefs a lot, and that's not fair. I often used to get people going, I only lost my da-da-da. That's I'm not judging you. Please don't judge yourself on your reaction to what has happened in your life. And I just, I've seen my family personally, the 4 of us, 3 of us that were left. Sorry, 4 of us. Yes, 4 of us that were left. All completely affected by the same, a similar grief, mum and dad losing a son, me and my brother. We've all grieved in completely different ways. Family dynamics shift on their heads. You're in a tornado, you're supporting each other at different times when needed. And it's completely debilitating. It changes absolutely everything when you're that close to it. So
Has it changed you over time?
Oh God, completely different person. In some beautiful way, I think I've grown into the person not only that my brother would have been, but would have always wanted for me to be. And I don't think it's not a conscious choice. I've not gone, who did Rob want to be? Who did I want to be? What I always lacked, Chris, was purpose. I literally remember sitting down with my dad coming out of my GCSEs being like, I don't know what I want to do with life. There's nothing. And we did this mapping and I didn't feel very clear at the end of it. I went to uni and dropped out because I picked a degree that I didn't care about. I just felt a bit of internal pressure because no one else had gone to uni in my family. And it wasn't until we lost Rob that I found, something that I was like, oh, I'm going to pin my hat on that and go, I want to do that. I want to prevent another family going through what we did. And I was very lucky. A friend got me a job and a stable job where I was a bar manager, not living a very healthy lifestyle, that helped me learn loads of skills about event organization, marketing. Yeah. And I just grew. I found loads of purpose through that role. I traveled a lot. I grew as a person. And I think I've taken my grief with me. It's, that grief time is not a good healer. What happens is your life grows around it. And I've seen in different ways how my life has grown massively because I was young when it happened. I've got a family. I've got a great job. I've got loads of friends. Yeah. My life has lots of little things around this grief. I've also seen how grief can still stay very consuming if your life doesn't grow around it. Life is a great distractor more than anything. So
do you reckon we need to, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Do you reckon to cope with grief better we need to grow?
Do we need to grow? I think we need to do a few things. I think there's an acknowledgement internally that our grief will never go away, but that life can carry on. But that looks completely different for so many people. I did quite an extreme thing. At the age of 22, I started a charity. That's not normal. That could be, it's finding purpose. I think it's finding that reason to carry on, whether that's, a child, a sibling, a friend, whether that's a job, whether that's just getting out of bed, whether that's setting yourself a challenge. A lot of people, run marathons. They do fundraising events for causes close to their grief because that is putting good back out into the world. I think you experience this massive negative in that, we always want to swing back the pendulum with the doing good part so that somewhere we sort of sit in balance. And I think that's what life is about. And I think those challenges are different for everyone, whether you are raising tens of thousands of pounds or just going, today I'm going to go down the shops or make my bed. That's okay for some people. That is.
It's an incremental step, right?
Absolutely.
It's effectively just that movement forward. And I'm 100% with you. That element of comparison, you know what? I'm guilty of doing it as well. That element of comparison actually is not helpful for us or for anybody really, because it sometimes restricts us from taking that next step in our own lives. How did so I suppose the interesting thing for me is that element of grief leading to something positive, because like when I lost my mum in 2019, I think that was a bit of a moment where we thought, actually, how do we use the Kindness project that was launched a bit before that as a way to help more people? And I think it's interesting, but I think a lot of the conversations I have with clients and friends who are post that build stage and now thinking about purpose and meaning is that natural next step. So talk to me a bit about how people get involved with the Robin Cancer Trust and how, what's that tiny incremental step they can take, because not everybody's going to want to run hundreds of kilometers to drive a ball bag. I'm just saying.
That's true. They can. That's if
anyone
fancies that. Okay. With the Robin Cancer Trust, there's so many ways. I think again it comes back to the simple ones, you think about volunteering opportunities. If you want to dip your toes in, get a feel for the charity, what makes us different from other charities, what resonates with people, come and join us at an event. You've never experienced anything like it. I think people love volunteering with us because we are slightly different. And actually, that's one of my greatest joys with the charity is having watched it go on from family and friends to people just being involved, because they're like, oh, I just love the branding, I love the cause, I love how you do things, I've never seen anything like this. And I'm like, wow, that is actually, when you take a step back, something I'm incredibly proud of.
What do you think makes us so different? What is it?
I think we've always been really honest. I think we've always told Rob's story really honestly. You know, there's still a video on the website taken about 5 months after Rob passed. It's just about as raw as it can get. I think we are bold in our storytelling and in the way that we look and feel. You know, there are giant testicles and angry ovaries everywhere, and we stay true to that. We've always just stuck with, we are for younger people. You know, we are for everyone if this resonates, but we're not for everyone, and that's okay. And we've stuck quite true to that. We've not watered anything down to try and have mass appeal. We are for younger people, but we've had people in their late 50s, early 60s just be like, oh no, I love a bit of swearing, I love this is for me. And we're like, yeah, join our tribe, that's absolutely fine. But if we've got people in their 30s that go, do you know what, this feels a bit much for me, we're like, we've worked with all these amazing partner charities, we'll find you the help you need, but we know we're not going to resonate with everyone.
But it's interesting because, like, you think about those, you know, those guys who are older who potentially might not resonate perfectly, but if they've had experiences in their life of people who are younger who have gone through that journey, and as you said, I mean, I'm learning a lot about this from my kids at the minute. Like I didn't know what a skibbity toilet was about 3 months ago, and now apparently it's a thing that all the kids know about. Like this dialogue, this way we communicate, it's got to evolve and change if we want to resonate with a certain audience, right? What do you think?
Yeah, got to keep up. I have to admit, I don't know what a skibbity toilet is, so maybe you could enlighten the audience.
Not right now, but I'll send you a meme.
Thank you.
But yeah, but then like when you're, I mean, I've got a teenager, Toby, so one of the things that she's always doing is coming up with stuff that I just don't get, and then are you not on? No, I'm not on TikTok, but you can educate me about the way that we talk about this stuff. I think the big thing is, how do we get people to be more conscious of their health, more conscious of getting checked out, and whatever way we need to approach that conversation, we need to, right?
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head, right? So we've got a 24-year-old social media, our digital media officer, and she just rolls with it. And she's used to send me things to check. I'm like, just go with it. It clearly, this makes sense to you. This is trending. This is flowing. But it all comes back to reaching people in the way they want to be reached. You know, our core audience is 16 to 45. Like I say, as you were saying there, like, so grandparents often come up to us. It's talking bollocks, right? It resonates. It's a very British phrase. Everyone says it. They get it. Whether they love it, they get it for their grandkids. They get it for their children. Yeah. Yes, this makes sense. But we can't all be big, bold campaigns all the time. Sometimes in certain audiences or certain communities, we need to tone that down, and we need to put that away, put our information across in a way that is representative and appropriate as well. So we're not just, you know, this is who we are, you know, we will die on this hill. We're like, this is our main brand, but actually our job as a charity is to reach absolutely everyone. So as long as people are being talked to respectfully. And the beauty of what we do, Chris, is we are always the joke. We're never laughing at anyone else. We're not laughing at their stories. I'm the CEO. I'm the giant ball bag. I get called a dickhead 10 times a day when I'm standing out in a field. But it's a fun joke and it's a good icebreaker, right? I'm the butt of the joke. I'm not laughing at people's testicles. I'm saying I'm a giant ball bag. Our staff are there with giant testicles around their necks. We're making ourselves the joke. So that is the icebreaker that people can then connect with.
You know what I'm really curious about? That what's the weirdest conversation you've had, or most meaningful, or whilst dressed as a giant ball bag?
I was trying to think what's appropriate. I've had some conversations. I mean, the beauty of what we do, and I say this quite often, is a lot about health, and especially men's health, is the breaking of the stigma and the embarrassment.
Yeah.
Right? Just any conversation. So, there's a spectrum of that, from knee pain, and I'm not doing this in a particular order. I'm thinking it off the top of my head. Headaches, knee pain, shoulder aches, tummy pain. Then, you've got over here on the extremes end is testicles and probably prostate cancer checks, right? For the reasons why people don't get them done. So we live in this extreme stigma breaking world. So what's amazing about doing what we do, and obviously my costume is an even more extreme version of that, but normally we are literally in fields we have these signs that you put over your head, and they look like, you've seen them, they look like giant testicles.
I've worn them.
You've worn them, yeah, of course. Through London, and then we've got the ovaries on the other side. So they're people come up and talk to us about everything, and I love that, because we've done our job. If we can break the stigma at this end, it will filter down through all the others, and hopefully through the mental health. So we've had people talking to us about not just cancer, about illnesses, about things that they've been affected by. We obviously get some characters come up to us and tell us certain things. I did meet a man. I don't know his name, so I can't oust him. He had 3 medically normal testicles. That was probably the most. I was just like, "What's happening here?" He was like,
"He needs a bit of an extra time to check him, doesn't he?" Then
we talked at it. He came over and he's like, "Oh, I don't usually tell people this, but I've got 3 testicles." And I was like, "I didn't know that was a thing." He's like, "Honestly, I've had all the scans, I've had the checks. I just was born with
good.
All good." He's like, "They all born with 3." He's like, they fit, and I check them all regularly. He was really into his testicular health. It just that was the one I was thinking when you said, "What's the wildest thing?"
Yeah, I mean, when you want to protect all of them, don't you? I mean, that
amazing. I love that. So,
I mean, this is the interesting bit, because I'm a man who's I don't know if early. I think I might be kidding myself, Toby, but I'm a man of a early middle age sort of perspective. And I've been more conscious that I probably need to check out myself a bit more often, make sure that I'm healthy in that area. During the research for this interview, I learned a lot, because I look on your website and and can I encourage anybody who's a bloke of a certain age to do that, because there's a lot of great, and I know your target is for having conversation with younger men and women, but I actually learned a lot about what I should potentially do to make sure that I'm okay. But from a testicular health perspective, what should we do? How often should we check ourselves out? What should we do as a first step when we're concerned? How would you recommend that as blokes we need? I mean, and again, I agree with you. We're bloody useless at some of this sort of stuff a lot of the time. How do we get better? What do we need to do to check ourselves out pretty regularly?
Perfect. Right. So the first thing, hot bath or shower. As any man will tell you, obviously, balls are a temperature gauge. When it's chilly out, everything's all tucked in. So hot bath or shower, and your hands are nice and warm as well. Everything's just literally hanging quite loosey-goosey. Can I get a prop? I've got a prop. I realised I could do this on camera with a prop. So here's a pair of testicles. Here's a pair I made earlier. So, pair of testicles. Everything hangs nice and loosey-goosey. All you're going to do is fingers and thumbs. You're just checking one testicle at a time, and you're just giving it a gentle roll. You don't want to squeeze in too hard. We obviously know that hurts. And you're feeling for anything that's not normal for you. So doing one at a time. Cancer doesn't work symmetrically. So if you've got something that's in one and not the other, then that's worth getting checked out. We're saying once a month. You just get to notice. First off, you get to know what's normal for you. You're checking regularly. So first Tuesday of the month, set a reminder in your phone. Simple. You also notice if anything's suddenly different. If you're checking every 5 minutes, which teenagers might be doing, you won't notice anything different. We always use it's akin to if you're putting on a bit of weight, your mate that hasn't seen you in a few months will definitely tell you, but someone in the office that sees you day by day may not be able to tell you. So we're looking for lumps, So the size of a pea can come up in a month, and that can continue to grow. It's quite normal for one to hang a little bit lower than the other, but one should not be significantly larger than the other. So swelling is something we're looking for. We're looking for hardness. Again, they should have a certain bounce to them. You don't want to squeeze them, but they shouldn't be rock hard like a pebble. We often hear of guys talking about a dragging sensation. So that's more of a feeling rather than something you can check for. But if you've got a feeling of they're just like dragging, they're really heavy, you're getting lower back pain as well, that all needs to be checked out. And obviously pain is an indicator that something's wrong. We get guys to check for the epididymis, which is your sperm cord that can wrap around just from the testicle all the way up. That's sperm goes from point A to whatever you're pointing at, Chris. But again, that's not my prerogative. You're just checking for that. That can be a little bit tender. Any lumps that aren't normal for you on them, they can need to get checked out. Most of the time, it's just a water cyst. And the reason you get sent to an ultrasound once a doctor checks you out if they think something's wrong is that they can immediately tell if it's a solid mass or just a water cyst. Water cysts are uncomfortable, but they go away on their own. Epididymitis, which is a swelling of the epididymis, can feel like pain, feel like tenderness. A doctor will be able to tell you. Often they'll give you a course of antibiotics, but it's 95% curable if caught early. You got the power to check. You're spending about 30 seconds to a minute on each testicle, just feeling. It's just another body part. And you have the power to save your life in your hands. So,
and if you had pain in any other part of your body, you'd more likely get checked out, right?
Absolutely.
One of those things that we need to get better at. Toby, one I'm curious about, because I know, I bet you've got a million stories you could tell about the impact of the work you'll do, but what one story do you find yourself telling the most?
There's a friend of mine, now friend of mine, that lives down the street, and I get to see him every morning on the school run. And the Robin Cancer Trust is the reason he's here. And I just love it because I get to say good morning to him, and I get to see his two kids that he's had post-cancer. And I just think it's absolutely incredible. Just watching every day, him and his wife take his kids to school brings me so much joy. I
love that.
Effectively, this gentleman saw our stand at a fundraiser, took one of our cards, and then he put on his own fundraising event. And after that event, a couple of months later, he found the card, checked himself, found a lump. It was an aggressive form of testicular cancer. Did exactly what he was supposed to do, wasn't embarrassed, went straight to the doctors, went through the whole process with minimal, effects because he found it early, but was told, if you left this any period of time, this really would have been very serious, and got himself sorted and just did everything by the book. Identified the problem, knew the solution, went and got it fixed, and has had 2 kids since. And I get to see him every day in the school run. It's absolutely amazing.
What an amazing reminder of the positive impact of the work you do. I tell you what I'm curious about, because I know you're on a bit of a mission at the minute with the Robin Cancer Trust. Tell me a little bit about that mission and what the plans for the charity are.
Yeah, so we're in a bit of we've been quite a small charity for quite a long years. Coming out of COVID, there was just me and one other member of staff, and we've grown quite rapidly. We've had some amazing funding, and our vision now is to reach every young person in the UK with our life-saving cancer campaigns. And the reason that we focus on the younger audience is it's that time of life where you feel really like
self-conscious.
Yeah, absolutely. You've gone out from mum and dad being in charge of your health. You sort of forget about your health for a while. Like, you might focus on the gym and the stuff that makes you look good, but you're not really focusing on maybe some of the mental health and the physical health stuff you could be. So we want to make sure people know all the stuff they need to know there, because it's lifelong. As you grow up, you'll know that information, and if you ever need it, you'll know where to find us. So we want to reach everyone, and we also want to make sure that anyone diagnosed anywhere in the UK gets the same response from us. So we want to work with all the partner hospitals, make sure that if someone's in up north in Newcastle, down in Bristol, or in central London, that they can get the same help from the Robin Cancer Trust. So it's
how is that? Because I think about that connection between the NHS and charity, and whether there's partnerships involved in it, how that all works together. And I'd imagine that the NHS being particularly under pressure at the minute, it's a difficult space to get that education. So where does all that fit together, do you think?
There's a few big statutory bodies that we need to crack into. So for the education side, we do need to crack the Department of Education. That's the next big challenge. Make sure that people are aware, the curriculum is up to date, the modules are being taught. That's a big thing for us, because at the moment it's almost a postcode lottery. Where we are, people are getting educated, but they're not getting educated elsewhere. And then the support services, the NHS and the ICBs around the country, we have to work with them to make sure that everyone gets the same service from us. That takes a lot of work on the partnership side. At the moment, we're individually going to hospitals. Quite difficult when nurses are moving around. Sometimes you lose that connection. You have to reconnect with people. It's all about partnerships. But what is good is that the new government is focused on prevention being a big part of driving better outcomes. And big partners in the charity sector, including like Macmillan, are really helping us drive this forward. So it is just about working together. Everyone knows how stretched everyone is. We just have to find the solutions. But I think what is good there is an acknowledgement of how much the charity sector brings to the world. The public sector is stretched, but the charity sector, the charity tax is real. We prop up a lot of services, and I'm not just talking about cancer. You look at the breadth of all the charities out there. You talk about wanting to find a cause. There's something out there. If there's a problem in the world, a charity exists to try and fix it, and we're all just scrambling to make enough money so that we can amplify that. But you just be smart, Chris, as well. Like, everything we do is scalable and sustainable. So our support services are all centralized. A lot of it is digital. All of our support packs, we don't send them out to the hospitals because that costs a lot of money. We couldn't afford to do that. We centralize that through our team, and then people come to us so that we can then deliver them. So we don't have to hold as much stock. We don't have boxes sitting in hospitals, maybe not getting used. So I'm not saying that's a bad model. It just didn't work for us as a charity with money that we had available.
And I think if you want to see an organisation that innovates, pick one that measures positive impact in a way that does that, and it's clear that you guys do that. Where can people find out a bit more about you and the charity, Toby?
Well, thank you. The RobbingCancerTrust.org is our website, which is sort of got everything on it. And then on social media, it's at RCT Charity. If people want to get involved, obviously we own the half marathon in Colchester, and we'd love to see as many runners as possible. So colchesterhalfmarathon.com, people can sign up. There's free charity entries. If people want to just raise a small amount, you can get a free entry, you get a t-shirt, you join our running group as well, which would be absolutely amazing. And then the podcast is available on all platforms and at thriveagainstcancer.co.uk.
Brilliant. Thank you, mate. Thank you for joining me and sharing both your insights and the amazing work you do. I really appreciate it. That's it for this episode today. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. And I'd really be curious if you want to put in the comments, either on the podcast or on this video when it goes out on YouTube, what's your incremental next step to do good in your community? What's the next thing you're going to do? Tiny next thing you're going to do to support a cause you believe in? Because I'd love to know. On that note, have a lovely day, and we'll see you on what happens next.